is more than a show. It's the Great British Shooting Show, the biggest celebration of shooting in the UK, bar none. From air guns to optics, country style to sport, it's where every shooter belongs. 3 incredible days, from the 13th to the 15th of February 2026 at the NEC Birmingham. No distractions, just the very best of British shooting and beyond, all under one roof. Book now at shootingshow.co.uk.
Hi, Gary Chillingworth here for Airgun World Magazine, Shooting and Country TV. Welcome to Life at the Range. I forgot my tripod, so unfortunately you might be a little bit wobbly. But yeah, there you go. Sort of my memory of a goldfish. Here we are at Malden District Airgun Club out here on the range. There's the covered range behind us and the Malden supergun in the background. We'll be talking about that in a little while. What we're going to be talking about today is winter HFT. Well, not winter HFT, but shooting in the winter. And the things that can affect you, the things that can affect your gun, and the things that can affect your scope. So, yeah, so enough of the intro. Let's get on with shooting in the winter and how it can mess you up. Okay, so one of the most important things if you're shooting in the winter is keeping yourself dry and warm. Now, I'm lucky I've got this great big Swed Team jacket that's absolutely stunning. It keeps me warm, it keeps me dry, it keeps all the elements away from me. But I think these are about £300 and it's worth the investment. But if you haven't got something like this, then layers. You can pick up some thermal long johns, thermal tops for 10 quid. And then you've got a nice warm fleece over the top, and then you wear a motorcycle jacket, or not, sort of motorcycle waterproofs or just regular waterproofs on the top. And that will keep you dry and it will keep you warm. Some of the best waterproofs you can get is you don't really want the ones that, the trousers that finish there, because when you lay on the ground, if you're laying on a wet mat, the water seeps up and goes down your waist. No fun. Use the bib and brace type, the things that come up to about there and go over your shoulders, and they will always keep you warm and dry. But layers are really important. But what I also do, and what I would strongly recommend anyone does, is that when you go shooting, especially if it's going to be a wet and windy day, is take a spare set of clothes with you. Take some clothes that are, a spare set of joggers, a spare, warm top, a spare hat, some spare socks, some light moccasin shoes, because if you've got like a 2-hour drive home and you're soaking wet and you've got to get in the car, you are going to freeze. If you've got some warm and dry clothes, it gives you the ability to come to the end of the shoot and just get changed into something dry, and you will be a much happier person. And obviously, gloves. Now, we all like to be Michael Jackson and wear a singular glove, but this is your trigger finger. So you end up with a really cold trigger finger. Just get yourself a thin pair of gloves or something like that you can keep over your hand. You can cut the trigger finger off so you can still have that feel on the trigger, but having a glove for your right hand is definitely worth having. Also get yourself, if I've got one, hand warmer. Hand warmer during the winter is an absolute boon. They're only about 20 quid, they're electric, and they're absolutely great. So here we are at the Malden supergun, or to be more precise, the windless range. And this is one of the biggest issues you have in the winter. You have a tendency to have a lot more inclement weather, higher winds, rain, and just that air density that you get. When you're trying to set up a new scope or just check the zero of your gun, finding a still day is incredibly difficult to do. So here at MAD, what we've got is we have got this. And let's see if we can see down here. And down there, hopefully you can see, That's a nice big tube that you can set your target out. I think it's 30 or 35 yards long. I'm not sure exactly, but you can set your target out and you're not affected by wind on left and right. But obviously what you want to do is you want to be shooting here in the wind. You know, we've got our course out the back, and at the moment it's actually quite still. But if you can get down here on a day where it's like a 10, 15 mile an hour wind, you can practice. You can shoot this way or you can shoot that way. So you can wait for the winds going left to right and see if your rifle takes more wind left to right or more wind right to left. You can pick up, hang on a sec, oh, my knees. You can pick up little bits of grass, drop it. Okay, so that landed about a foot to my left. Shoot a target of 40 yards, pellet stays within the kill. So I know that if I drop a piece of grass and it only moves a foot to my left, I can stay in the kill. If I drop this piece of grass and it lands 3 feet away, or like one big step, I'll aim in the middle of the kill. If it blows outside, I now know that if grass lands 3 feet away, I need to aim outside the kill. Things like that are hugely important to learn, and you only learn information like that by shooting repeatedly on a range. Now, a question I asked is, does temperature affect the way your pellet flies? Temperature, not so much. However, if you've got a lot of moisture in the air and the air is dense, it does have a tendency to drag the pellet down. If you're shooting across water, it will drag the pellet down. But what temperature does is it massively affects the power on your rifle. If you're shooting a PCP, in the summer when it's really hot, your power will go up, and in the winter your power will go down. If you're shooting a Springer, it's the opposite, because in the winter everything contracts and gets smaller. We know about this, and if the seals are smaller, there's not as much resistance and you get faster speeds. That's why a chronograph is so important to have. So check your power in the summer, check your power in the winter, and make sure you keep an eye on your lubrications and whatever it is you need to do. And then you might have to have a winter setup, or certainly when it's very, very cold. But yeah, very, very moist weather will slow the pellet down and drag it down a bit, but not by a lot. One of the best things about being in a club is you have access to a covered range. So even if it's chucking it down with rain, you can come here and you can shoot away all day long. So we've got a range out here to 70 odd yards, or 75 I think it is, to the back. And many a times we have found chaps just sitting here on the sofas drinking tea and shooting the breeze. But yeah, so that's one of the things of the winter. Find somewhere comfortable to shoot. You know, you've got places like this. You know, they've got many other clubs that have got indoor facilities as well, but it's certainly worth finding somewhere that's comfortable to shoot. Okay, so when you finish shooting and you've got back to the car, you've now got a 2-hour long journey home. You've changed into some dry clothes, so you're all comfortable, and your rifle, which you've been shooting with, and here we've got our lovely Black Wolf, is absolutely soaking wet. You've been out shooting, the gun's got wet, you putting it back in the bag, in and out. So now the interior of your bag is absolutely soaking wet. So a really good trick that we can use is, obviously, you do your basics. You get your microfiber cloth, you completely dry the gun down, so everything is good. But now you're going to be putting it back into a wet bag. Well, a couple of things we can do before we do that. Number one, you can buy these. They're little, like, this one's made by Blistol. VP90 do them. I think there are other makes as well. They're field patches, and you can use these to wipe down your rifle, and it basically puts a coating of oil over your rifle, which will protect it against rust. But then, be like Full Prefect, And never go anywhere without your towel. Those of you who've watched Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy will get the reference. So wrap your rifle up in your towel, stick that in your gun bag, and now when you're driving all the way home, your rifle is in the towel, in the gun bag, and it's not getting wet. Now, when you get home, there's a couple of really important things. Obviously, you need to remove your rifle from your gun bag and dry your gun bag out. You can dry your gun bag next to a radiator or anywhere you want to do it, and that's absolutely fine. The one thing you don't ever want to do is place a rifle next to a radiator. Rifles have got rubber seals in them. A lot of them are made out of wood. If you put a wet or damp or cold rifle next to a radiator, you will crack the seals and you could even damage the wood and cause it to constrict where it's expanded because of the moisture in the air. And that's another thing. When you are thinking about buying your rifle, think about when you're going to be shooting. If you're only ever going to be shooting in the summer, a wooden stock can be absolutely fine. However, if you are an all-weather shooter, think about a laminate stock or a polymer stock. This they say Black Wolf is the carbon. This is an absolutely crack stock because these won't swell with moisture in the air. They won't shrink when it's really, really hot. So going for something like this, going for a laminate, going for a polymer, if you're going to shoot in a lot of inclement weather, that could possibly be the way to go. Another thing we really want to talk about is acclimatisation. Often I'll keep my gun in my house and I'll come out of a really warm house. I'll put the gun into the car, switch the engine on, turn the heater on, drive a couple of hours with my aircon on and it's 70 degrees in the car and it's absolutely lovely. And then I'll get to a freezing cold shoot and I'll put my hat on and I'll stick my heavy clothes on and my layers on and I'm ready to go and I walk out and the gun has gone from being really warm to really cold. I bring the rifle up to my face and I can't see through the scope. The scope is now misted up on the outside, not the inside, because they're nitrogen purged, but that's because I haven't allowed the rifle to acclimatise. So when you arrive at an event, leave the door open, leave your boot open, leave the rifle outside for a good 20-30 minutes. Let the rifle acclimatise to the conditions that you are at. If you can, take it on the range, fire a few shots through. But basically, don't take your rifle from a boiling hot car to a freezing cold day and then expect it just to go bang, ready to shoot. Like us going into the sea when it's really, really cold, we want to take it nice and easy. So yeah, acclimatise your rifle. And it's also a good idea to acclimatise yourself because if it's boiling hot or it's freezing cold, sometimes the old grey cells, they don't work the same as if you've been sitting in a nice warm car. Okay, so when we're actually out on the course and we're shooting, I can guarantee you there will be a time when you're shooting a target up in the air, rain will get inside of your lens and you'll end up having to clean your scope. The other thing is that we all do is that when we pick up the rifle, we breathe out and we breathe over the ocular lens. So what a lot of us do is we carry a little packet, well, one of these little drawstring bags with us. This has got in it a little puffer, which is great for clearing away dust from the lenses, or if during the summer, if you get dust on your lens, you can just blow it away. We also carry a little lens cloth. Now, I carry a lens cloth mainly because my glasses get really, really dirty. But I also carry little plastic bags full of bits of kitchen towel and things like that. So that way you might have 9 or 10 of them, because if you're chucking it down with rain, you get your lens cloth out, it's going to get wet. It's no use. You'll just be moving water around. If you've got 10 of those tiny little plastic bags, you can buy a couple of hundred on eBay for a couple of quid. Just get a bit of kitchen towel, put it in there. They essentially throw away or put in your pocket. Don't throw them on the ground. You also get these, some spray. You can also get these things, which this one has fallen apart. Hang on. These are lens pens. So again, you can use it to clean the inside of your scope. You've also got a little brush on the end of it. These are pretty good. I think this entire pack was, God, I'm having one of them days today. This entire pack was, I think it was about 6 or 7 quid. And all of that just stays in there. And it stays in the pocket of my bag. So that may, no matter what happens, if my scope gets dirty, covered in water, whatever, I can dry it and get it back to where it needs to be before we start, before we start shooting. Okay, so this subject, it might seem, it's one of those things that it's hard to talk about, but it's something we really do need to talk about. And that is the people we shoot with, and actually ourselves as well. HFT, FT, and shooting in general, there are a lot of people who are older who shoot our sport, and they are amazing. I shoot with my mate Jeff and Jean. They're both well into their 70s, and they shoot exactly the same as the younger folk. Although Jeff's a bit slow these days. But that's only mentally, not physically. People who are older and younger, hypothermia and heat stroke can hit them faster than it can somebody who is 30 in good health. And that's the other thing, people who are not in the best of health, they can get affected by heat and cold really, really quickly. Now, how do you spot somebody who's going into hypothermia? Well, I'm not giving you medical advice. Never ever take anything I say as medical advice. But we know the people we shoot with. And if all of a sudden somebody seems to be struggling and not to think about what they're doing, you know, they're a bit slower getting down, they're a bit slower getting up, they're making silly mistakes, keep an eye on them. As the body gets really cold, it draws all of its blood from the extremities, from the feet, from the fingers and from the brain, and it draws it into the core to keep the heart and the vital organs warm and full of blood. So you might notice that people start dropping things because they haven't got any sense in their feet. You might see them stamping their feet more, trying to get some blood flow going. Watch their lips if they start to get a bluish tinge. If they start to shiver, and more importantly, if they're shivering and then they stop shivering, that's the point where you really need to start taking intervention. Now, I'm not saying grab people and drag them off the course, but sometimes you might need to call a marshal over and take the difficult thing and say, I think the person I'm shooting with is struggling. Because obviously they've got a loaded rifle, and if they've lost the sensitivity in their fingers, they could drop a rifle, they won't have the trigger control. So you're shooting with someone who's older, someone who's younger, somebody who's in health, or just anybody, and all of a sudden you think there's a possibility that they might be suffering with hypothermia or going towards hypothermia. Well, what do you do? Well, the most important thing is get them somewhere warm. If you're somebody with blankets, that's why it's always a good idea if you carry a blanket in your car, certainly in the winter. Get them out the wind, get them out the rain, get them somewhere dry. If they've got wet clothes on them, wet trousers and wet jackets, if it's touching the skin, will draw heat out the body faster than basically being naked. Not that I'm suggesting you start stripping people's clothes off. But if you're shooting with someone and they've got soaking trousers on and it's on their bare skin and you've got a spare pair of dry trousers in your car, let them have them. Get them off them, let them do it in the toilets, but get dry clothes on them. Get hot drinks into them. If they don't drink tea or coffee, just get them to sip on warm water. Get some heat into them. If you've got somebody, if they've got a car, if you've got someone with a good car, with a good heater, get them in a warm environment and have someone sit with them all the time. Keep them awake, don't let them sleep. If they're at the point where they're not making a lot of sense, you know, they're starting to ramble, that's the point when you dial 999 and you speak to them direct. Always download What 3 Words onto your phone. A lot of the places we shoot won't have a specific address. So with What 3 Words, it breaks up the entire world into like 3-meter squares, and you'll be able to say, our code is peach, golf ball, football, and they will know where you are anywhere in the world within 3 meters. Now, there are some fallacies that they've said, oh, get a bowl with really hot water and put their feet or hands in it. Yeah, don't do that. What that can do is it can all of a sudden heat the blood and it can cause a person to go into shock. You want to get them warm, but you need to do it steady, slowly. Just bring their temperature up. If you're not sure, speak to the ambulance service on 999 or 111 and they will be able to guide you through. But if you're not sure about someone, take precautions early. You don't want it to get into full hypothermia or heat stroke. But yeah, that's about it. When your gun bag is dry and when your rifle is dry and you're back home and you need to store your rifle, I'm a great believer in these. These are these big bags of silicone. I've got 2 of these sitting in the bottom of my gun cabinet. The rifles sit on top. It takes any moisture out of the gun cabinet. You can get the little sachets of silicone, which you can put into your gun bag or in your gun cases. I'll put a picture here of my Ghost. It's got my little silicone sachets in, and it just draws any moisture that might be inside of the gun, or it might be, it'll just draw any moisture away. When you have a rifle, it's a good idea to know how to remove the stock, because there have been times when I've shot in competition and I have got soaked and the water gets down in between the edges and gets actually down into the stock. So sometimes remove the action from the stock, give it a dry, give the inside of the stock a dry, and just give everything the better chance to dry out. Other things, a good old-fashioned shooting glove. Now, if you've got one of these, it's a good idea to have 2. Often we shoot in competitions where we might be shooting on a Saturday and a Sunday, and these things get soaked, and you end up with a really, really like manky glove, and the following day you're putting your glove on and it's wet and it's horrible and it's not very nice. I have 2 or 3 gloves which I use on rotation, so they're all broken in. But the other thing to remember is gloves get dirty, especially in the winter with mud and bacteria, and yeah, that one needs a clean. These can just be chucked in the washing machine. We had a shooter at Mad, Lloyd. He had a rather manky old glove and he had a cut on his hand. Put the glove on, bacteria got into the glove, he ended up with sepsis. So keep your gloves clean and dry. But yeah, have 2 of them, so that way you've always got a nice warm and dry glove. Hi, Gary here in the edit. I can't believe I forgot boots. Good boots, good quality boots. You're walking about in woodlands that's going to have roots covered in trees, tree stumps. It's going to be slippy and stuff like that. So good quality boots. A lot of shooters like shooting in like the gum boots and in Wellingtons. Also good quality socks. You can get the sealskin socks where if your boot leaks you still end up with dry feet. So a good quality boot or a Wellington. Don't shoot in trainers in the winter, you'll end up breaking your ankle. But you know, boots are what insulate you from the ground. You know, the ground might be frozen and that cold is going to come up through your feet. And if you've got wet and cold feet, you're going to have a miserable day. So yeah, boots, insulation, good socks, and you'll be a happy bunny. Look after your feet. Well, I hope today's video has been useful to you and it will help you get the most out of your shooting in the winter. I'm off now to play with this Black Wolf and to get some shooting done. See, I do actually do some shooting. I just don't sit here and just talk at the camera all the time. We've got another couple of videos coming up this month. On Christmas Eve, that's next Wednesday, we have got the full breakdown of this rifle. We're going to be taking it apart. We're going to be shooting it on the range and seeing what kind of groups we can get at. I think we'll do 25 yards, 40 yards, 45 and possibly 50, and we'll see what we can get. And then on Boxing Day, we've got our usual Boxing Day video. Again, we're going to be using the Black Wolf this year because we are having a bit of a December with day state, and we're going to be taking this rifle and shooting it at 100 yards and seeing how many of those pesky targets we can kill at that distance. I think the most we've ever done is 2. So that's what this rifle has got to beat. And considering it has got this thing, which is a adjustable stripper, it's got a brass weight on the inside and it can move it around so that you can dial it in. I've got big hopes for this amazing rifle. So far, I've really been enjoyed shooting it, but you'll see more of that very, very soon. So take care of yourselves, take care of each other. We'll see you on Christmas Eve and on Boxing Day. Ta-da.